This is Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Boxing. You are watching Sporting Icons. You don't need to be anywhere else.
Now, Kevin Barry, who is the trainer for Joseph Parker, who's of course set to take on Dillian Whyte at the O2 Arena July the 28th in one hell of a fight. I'm sure it's going to be an epic fight and arguably the biggest heavyweight fight you could possibly make outside of maybe Joshua Wilder. And really looking forward to it, and I know a lot of you guys are. The O2 Arena is of course sold out now, so all good stuff. Now, Kevin Barry being the trainer of Joseph Parker and working with David Higgins of Duco, who's of course the promoter of Joseph Parker, plus the management team and what have you. So he knows exactly what it is to negotiate with Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Boxing, Anthony Joshua to make a fight. His last fight was of course with Anthony Joshua for a unification fight. Now of course, Anthony Joshua at the time, he had 2 of the 4 main belts. Joseph Parker had 1 of them. So Joshua had WBA and the IBF. Joseph Parker had the WBO. In addition, Joshua did have the IBO as well, but we don't really include that one. So either way, Joshua had half of what it is for Undisputed, with Parker having the WBO and Wilder having the other one, which would complete the jigsaw, the set for Undisputed, of course. So he knows what it's like to negotiate with Anthony Joshua. And within this, they conceded that Joshua is in fact the A side. He is the cash cow, and of course he held more belts. He had 2 belts compared to Parker's 1, so they conceded that there was an A side and a B side in this one. And they went through with a fight and then negotiated properly. I'm not saying it was easy. Of course, they wanted more than what ultimately they probably got in the end. But the most important thing is they wanted the fight. They were confident in potentially beating Joshua, and if they didn't beat Joshua, hey, life goes on and we got paid a whole lot of money for it. And on the back of that, he's now got another big money fight with Dillian Whyte. So a risk is always worth taking, or usually it is anyway. Now, he spoke to the Daily Mirror. This is Kevin Barry, of course, and he mentioned about the Joshua and Wilder situation, because the latest development is that Wilder is saying it's now going to be 50-50 or no fight, much like it was when Wilder was given first refusal to fight Joshua instead of Parker. He ran around and saying 50-50 or no fight. Now he's back on that flute. So anyway, Kevin Barry spoke to the Mirror and he said that Wilder, he needs to realize and accept even that Anthony Joshua is the golden goose. These are his words, the cash cow and the one with the power. Okay, so Wilder really needs to accept this. Now, he's absolutely correct, and everybody in boxing knows that he's correct. And for Wilder to demand 50-50 is, unfortunately, it's a duck. There's no other way of looking at it. He could have been fighting Joshua right now instead of Alexander Povetkin. Joshua's going to be taking on Povetkin on September 22nd at Wembley Stadium in front of 90,000. Wilder would have been fighting Joshua in October at the Millennium Stadium in front of 80,000. Reason for it, as we've already said, it was originally set for September because Triple G and Canelo, it looked like their fight wasn't going to happen, so there was a good date to have pay-per-view in America. But now, of course, because that the whole negotiations dragged on for so long, that Canelo and Triple G, they eventually come to a decision. Yeah, they're going to fight September the 15th. So September is out the question because people can't afford, or the average person can't afford to pay both pay-per-views, especially being that Canelo and Triple G, we could probably say that both of them, even individually, are bigger stars stateside than what Wilder or Joshua is. And, you know, that's keeping it real, right? So it was going to be moved to October. Everybody knew that. Team Wilder knew that, but they sat on the contract for terms that they agreed for $15 million, which again was double what Joseph Parker got for fighting Joshua. Even though Parker had 1 belt, Wilder's got 1 belt. People say that, well, Wilder's been champion longer. Yes, he has, but has done bugger all. Done far less than what Parker has. If you look at the resumes, look at who it is that Parker has been in with. He's beaten better names than what Wilder has, by quite some distance. So either way, Wilder has his contract on his desk for $15 million that he agreed to, and he agreed to come to the UK, but there's a sticking point. First of all, he wanted a rematch. Joseph Parker didn't get a rematch, and many others didn't get a rematch. Charles Martin didn't get a rematch, and plenty of other situations. So why does Wilder deserve a rematch when Joshua's had to go around doing all the damn hard work while Wilder sat in the shadows let's be honest, bum beating is what he's been doing. So either way, even with that aside, he said that he wants a date and venue in the contract, which again, we've been proving even this week when it was announced that Danny Jacobs will take on Sergey Derevchenko for the IBF middleweight title. They've signed, everything's done. They just don't have a date and venue. So this is common knowledge. Even Frank Warren, who is an Eddie Hearn hater, conceded that. Okay, so it's plainly obvious for anybody who wants to admit it that Wilder should have signed. He should have been fighting Joshua next, no matter how you look at it. And yes, of course, you've got his manager in Shirley Finkel, whatever you want to call him, as Hatman Strikes Back will call him, the guy who looks like he just stepped off a UFO. Brilliant. But he seems to be always making excuses as to why this fight can't happen and dragging it on. And, well, you know what? We didn't know that the WBA was putting pressure, which is strange because me, the common fan, and much like you guys, we knew what the WBA were doing. We knew that the WBA granted another month exception to try and make this fight. And yet, he didn't know that? Absolutely outrageous, isn't it? But of course, that aside, you've got Deontay Wilder's fans. It's like, you know, they've been screaming for this fight for like the past year. Obviously, they weren't supporting Wilder before, but they were supporting a guy to beat Joshua. You see, they want to be on the side of the fence of the guy who beats the man. And, you know, to be honest, Joshua is the man. Whether you like him or dislike him, he is the man. Obviously, some people will say Tyson Fury is, because he's a lineal champion. He never lost his belts in the ring. Okay, you know, that's absolutely fine. But as of right now, Tyson Fury isn't relevant until he can get back to how he once was, and then we can start talking about Tyson Fury potentially fighting these guys and what have you. So either way, it's like his fans, like Wilder's fans, just seem to make up excuse after excuse after excuse, give him alibi. As I said, ever since Joshua beat Vladimir Klitschko, his stock went through the roof. He then became the man of boxing. Arguably Canelo is as well, but certainly at heavyweight division, Joshua is, right? So the fans were like, well, he's not American and he's not doing what we want him to do, so therefore we hate him. Who have we got? Oh yeah, we've got a champion, Wilder. You know, he's been champion for 2 years and we've never once spoken about him before, but suddenly now we're going to. Why? Because we can get views, we can get subs, and we can get super chats and all this kind of stuff by using Joshua's name. You know, just go have a look for yourself. You will not go a day or two without these guys mentioning Anthony Joshua's name in their titles of their videos or in their videos in general. You know, that's just how it is. But yet Joshua is a fake champion, he's a paper champion, yet all they do is talk about him. Why? Because you guys watch. That's why they do it. Now, as I said, they're giving him alibi after alibi. They're making up lies, they're making up stories, and they want the fight. We don't care about the money, we don't care about any of that. We just want to see the best fight the best, when we want undisputed. Why are all you lot talking about Anthony Joshua's money? We don't care about that here over in the States. But suddenly now that's all they talk about is money. It's weird, isn't it, how two-faced that they can actually be. And now, as soon as the fight is coming through, they offer him a contract, and he sits on his contract for over a week for terms that he agreed to, and for reasons that I've already given you about the rematch clause and the date and venue, that he still didn't sign, and he was going to send the contract back a week later unsigned. So it's pretty obvious who's ducking who. It's plainly obvious, like the nose on your face. It really is. But yet these guys are like, well, you know, Wilder shouldn't sign. Wilder should move on. Wilder should forget about Joshua, and, you know, Eddie Hearn's a snake and he's a racist and he's part of the plantation and all this kind of real sickening stuff. But yet it's weird, isn't it, that they've been asking for this fight. As soon as the fight's almost there, Wilder should walk away. That shows that they didn't actually want the fight. They got nervous that Joshua is going to walk through Deontay Wilder and become undisputed, and they don't like that. Why? Because then they've thrown every other heavyweight under the bus, all like fellow Americans: Dominic Breazeale, Andy Ruiz Jr., Jarrell Miller, Adam Kalinacki, Charles Martin, and so on. They've thrown all these guys under the bus. So then heavyweight is no longer of interest to them, like it wasn't before when Klitschko was champion. They didn't watch any of that, hence the reason why they talk about welterweight and middleweight and what have you. So when Joshua beats the crap out of Wilder, they no longer have anything to talk about. They can't jump in bed with Joshua because they've been absolutely racially disgusting about Not just him necessarily, but Eddie Hearn. Do you see what I mean? And you know, these guys saying, well, we're not going to buy DAZN. I don't care how much it is, even if it's like 50 cents, we ain't going to buy it. We don't care. We're going to legally stream it. Don't let them fool you. They are going to buy it. If they're going to make videos doing post-fight reviews of these events, then they are watching it. And they are watching it through DAZN. They'll tell you it's through an illegal streaming app. It will not be. Don't believe for 2 seconds that DAZN have not thought about all this. Okay? So, anyway, all that aside, they don't want the fight. They've proved that they don't want the fight. Deontay Wilder has proved that he's been using Joshua's name for profile. And it's quite clever of him. You know, I really have to give it to him. Because he's been talking about Joshua ever since the Klitschko fight. Yet he never called out Joshua when he was here doing the commentary for Sky Sports. Which, by the way, Wilder had done a great job of that when he was here. But, you know, he never called him out. In fact, he was trying to get a fight with Tony Bellew, if you all remember. But then suddenly he goes back to America and then does what he always does, goes on social media and starts calling out Joshua. Joshua says, okay then, let's talk about it. Oh, well, no, we can't. So, yeah, okay, I want 50-50. Then it's a case of, well, Joshua's going to go fight Pulev, which turned out to be Takam. Then they'll go with the whole Luis Ortiz situation, which I've already explained to you, that Luis Ortiz was actually next after Pulev, had the Pulev fight happened, or it would have been next after the Takam, after Takam replaced Pulev. So Luis Ortiz had the option, but he just didn't do it because he wanted to fight Wilder. He wanted to get a belt and go fight Joshua for a unification, which is smart, you know, a smart thing to do had he have won. But ultimately he failed the PED test and ultimately ended up getting suspended by WBA, which I've said it before, I'll say it again, I don't agree that WBA should have suspended him. But anyway, that doesn't really matter. Fact is, the fight did eventually take place and Luis Ortiz lost anyway, so, you know, what can you do? But Wilder's been calling out Joshua. So, of course, he's meant to be fighting Bermane Stiverne. And all he's doing is talking about Anthony Joshua. All the way through. Why? For profile. And then on his build-up to actually fighting Luis Ortiz, after it was rescheduled, all he's doing is talking about Anthony Joshua. He gets the offer. Everything's tickety-boo. 3 months pass and the damn fight is still not signed. Even though Joshua reached out to them to say, okay, let's talk about this. Let's get this fight done. Here is $12.5 million. Which is way, way, way more than what you actually deserve, as your highest paid is $2.1 million against Luis Ortiz. You know, again, people keep saying about how Deontay Wilder deserved 50-50, but on what planet? What's he done to deserve 50-50? Absolutely nothing is the answer. And Kevin Barry is right. Wilder needs to accept who the Golden Goose is, who the A-side is. Wilder's not even a B-side when it comes to Joshua. No fighter out there right now is even a B-side. The gap is that far because Joshua has built the fan base. He's built the profile. He's gaining the money. He's been collecting the belts one at a time and all that kind of thing. So Kevin Barry's absolutely right that Wilder needs to accept. If he really wants this fight, he'll make this fight. If he really wanted to fight, he would have signed the contract. He knew that Joshua was next. And again, when Eddie Hearn said, okay, if you don't want Joshua next, of course, this is before the Parker fight, when he said that, you know, 50-50 or no fight, he said, okay, then take on Dillian Whyte. No, we don't want Dillian Whyte. We don't want Joshua's leftovers. But here he is, potentially fighting Dominic Brazil next, who was then Anthony Joshua leftover, right? And Wilder said, okay, you know, I'll fight Dillian Whyte, but you put Anthony Joshua in the contract. Eddie Hearn originally said, no, we're not doing that. It's two separate fights. Why would Dillian Whyte agree to that? Why would Anthony Joshua agree to that? These guys don't like each other. Why would they? Eventually, Eddie Hearn said, yeah, okay, fine. Let's do that. Wilder said, no, actually, I don't want Dillian Whyte anymore. Basically, he ducked Dillian Whyte on several occasions now. So, Kevin Barry's absolutely spot on. If Wilder really wants to fight, he would have signed. If he really wants to fight, he won't be demanding 50-50. As I said, Joshua has done all the hard work. He's been collecting the belts one at a time. He's been building the profile, getting the money, getting the reputation. I mean, again, people say that Wilder, you know, he sold out the Barclays Center in New York against Luis Ortiz. Now, maybe it's just me, maybe I'm wrong on all this, but for me, sold out means as in there's no tickets left, right? But at the Barclays Center, when Deontay Wilder took on Luis Ortiz, and again, you can go find this is all there, that is a 19,000 arena. In other words, they could have put 19,000 people in the arena. They put just over 14,000 in the arena. So that means 5,000 short. That is not a sellout, people. That is not a sellout. In New York City, of all places. Deontay Wilder isn't known, unfortunately. And as I said before, you know, people say, well, why is it Joshua was willing to go to New York to take on big baby Jarrell Miller, but he's not with Deontay Wilder? Again, exactly the same situation as I've said 100 times now, which is that Jarrell Miller is not a champion. It's not for undisputed. Undisputed on British soil. That's what Joshua said right after the Parker fight, that it will be for undisputed on British soil. First time in history, two champions come together on British soil for undisputed. So that is why, if, for example, it was not for undisputed and it was going against Deontay Wilder, so for example that he vacated or got stripped of the WBA rather than fight Povetkin, then he would have no issues going to America to fight Wilder. That's not the problem, it's for undisputed. But people don't want that. People have a real agenda, a real hate agenda against Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua. And it is sickening, but anyway, what can you do? But anyway, the original point of this video is that Kevin Barry is saying that Deontay Wilder, he really needs to accept who the cash cow is, who the golden goose is, who is the A side. As I said, Wilder, he couldn't afford Parker, but yet, and the Parker, I think they offered Parker, was it $2 million, and wouldn't go any higher or something like that anyway. But yet he can offer Joshua 50 million. Doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't make sense. And as I said back then, I believe that Wilder and Parker should have fought each other first. Then the winner takes on Joshua. That's what I believe should have happened, but neither fighter wanted that. Obviously, Parker, he wanted more money, of course, why not? And Wilder, he wanted to do what he's always done, which is go through the back door for an undisputed fight, get into the final, if you like, of an undisputed without actually earning it. But anyway, let's see what he does next. Joshua Povetkin's been signed now for a couple of weeks. We all know this. They signed within the 24-hour period. But again, some people have this disillusion that because it's not announced yet, it means it's not signed yet. No, not at all. Not at all. All this will be announced when they get the tickets are available and all that kind of thing. So be patient. You'll find out, I would imagine, probably tomorrow. You'll find out about Joshua and Povetkin officially. But anyway, let's see what happens. So I think I've gone off point here. Yeah, so Kevin Barry, absolutely correct. Drop your thoughts below about Kevin Barry's statement. Click that thumbs up and subscribe. Catch you all on the next video.